Hello, my name is Jen Kim, and the project I'm presenting today is for I-02 Academic Success in the Digital University. This research is about the truth behind the dissemination of misinformation during the COVID-19 pandemic. The presentation is composed of three big parts. First, background research and sources, and the second part will be about the research results, and the third will be conclusion and references. This timeline shows a breakdown of the research process so far. First, I started off with background research on COVID-19 misinformation using the UT Library website. Then I narrowed the topic down to misinformation on social media platforms. Next, I gathered sources from a few different databases that were accessible through our school's library website. I used Academic Search Complete and APA PsycInfo for the majority of my sources as they provided great search results. After going through several research articles, I derived three main points that answer my research question, and I completed my research proposal that demonstrated each step in depth. Now I am presenting my research through this video, and the last part of this individual project will be an activity where I have to create a wiki website. When doing background research, I first looked up encyclopedias available on UT Library website. However, almost all of them were pretty outdated. They were published in the late 2000s or early 2010s. Since my research topic was related to COVID-19, which is a very recent event, I instead had to look up newspaper articles and magazines for newer information. During the process of researching, I received some guidance from librarians. They provided information on which database would be the most suitable place to look for certain information, which in fact helped me to find the APA PsycInfo. This way, I also learned that each database has its own unique set of related study areas, such as APA PsycInfo having articles related to psychology. Here are the keywords that represent the scope of this research project. First, I came up with 5 keywords that are listed in the middle, and then moved on to broader and narrower terms for the topic. These are the strings I used when I was searching for sources on databases. I used Boolean operators such as and or to narrow down my search results. Using quotation marks also helped to find related sources that directly stated certain terms I wanted to find. After finding the sources, I used a CRAP test to evaluate the credibility of each article. I will skip the details for the sake of the length of this video, but basically, CRAP stands for currency, relevance, authority, accuracy, and purpose. I evaluated each source based on these 5 aspects, and as a result, they were reliable. During the pandemic, the overall population relied heavily upon the digital space, especially social media, to get informed about the most recent news regarding the virus and the events happening around the world. This method may have provided us with prompt information, but not necessarily accurate. According to the article written by Naeem Bendal, the usage of social media increased up to 87% during the pandemic. Within this time, misinformation on myriad topics spread like wildfire across the internet. This phenomenon raises a question. Why did misinformation spread so quickly during the pandemic, especially through social media? Therefore, in my research project, I dived into the reasoning behind the causes of misinformation widespread on social media, with the examples of vaccine hesitancy and conspiracy theories. The first reason that was found was the inattentiveness to the veracity of information. In a study conducted by Pennycook and others, 2 separate experiments assessed how misinformation influenced people's online sharing decisions. First, 2 yes or no questions were asked if the headline seemed accurate and if people were willing to share. After that, the participants were asked again, but this time their willingness to share on a scale of 6. This study demonstrated that going through a more explicit evaluation process where people have to think about sharing helps discern the truth, leading to better judgment when sharing. The next reason was the exposure time of misinformation. Singh and other researchers conducted a study where they posted COVID-19 related misinformation and posted it on Facebook to collect responses to the 4 questions they asked the users. The purpose of these questions was to demonstrate their tendency to believe it. The analysis showed that the longer they were exposed to misleading information, the more likely they believed in what they saw. Also, based on the evaluation of the relationship between misinformation and vaccine acceptancy, more false vaccine misinformation resulted in a higher level of believability, which led to higher vaccine refusal and hesitancy. The last finding was about the bots, also known as automated accounts on social media. This was something I had never thought of, so it was quite interesting when I was reading this article. A study was conducted by Ferrara where he gathered accounts and tweets posted on Twitter and evaluated the bot score and their relative activities during the pandemic. Turns out, accounts with higher bot scores, which is an indication of bots, were much newer than the ones with lower bot scores, which were likely to be humans. Also, higher bot scores were associated with smaller number of total tweets, but had a lot more COVID-19 related ones. Based on calculations, it demonstrated that bots had tweeted posts that were related to COVID-19 approximately 27 times more than human accounts. The researcher also used keywords and hashtags to analyze the contents of the posts. He concluded that accounts with higher bot scores showed the trend of riding the wave of popular topics, especially relating to COVID-19 when the pandemic was at its peak, by posting more tweets that involved keywords referring to conspiracy theories. The bots normally would post trending headlines acquired from renowned news channels or newspapers, along with links directed to YouTube videos. This resulted in more number of COVID-19 related tweets that consisted of misinformation, which led to more visibility for a greater number of users on the platform. Among these studies, those written by Pennycook, Singh, and others, suggested a couple of possible solutions that can be used to combat this issue. When users are on the platforms, they are often preoccupied with other functions such as likes and comments. Giving a nudge, which allows users to validate the accuracy and think through their decision of sharing, can influence the way how people perceive the information. Also, purposely disseminating truthful information on social media on a wide scale can also influence people if they're exposed to it as much as possible. As shown in a study conducted by Singh and others, increased exposure in fact checks positively influence the vaccine acceptance, which indicates a higher level of trust in correct information. Also, fact checks do not have as prominent effect as misinformation does, so it is important that the truth is spread even more to reach more audience. There are a lot of factors that accounted for the misinformation spread on social media during the pandemic. Besides the reasonings that were discussed in this research project, more others can be addressed to potentially prevent any worse consequences. The world we're living in is constantly evolving with the rise of technology, and society will continue to integrate technology into our lives rather than reduce the reliability of the technology we already have. We have seen what misinformation can do to the public. Before something irreversible happens, it is urgent that the solutions to misinformation must be implemented to at least mitigate the negative effect. Here are the references I have used for this project. Thank you for listening.